Hello, everyone. We're recording. It's December 21st, 2025, not 26 yet. That number's in my mind already. You know how when we used to write checks and it was always hard to, and in January, you always found yourself writing the previous year. We still do that occasionally. So December solstice, we just had the longest night of the year, I believe. Maybe it's last night or tonight. And I just want to show you guys, I got these on Etsy. I don't know if you like the movie Elf. I do love it. It's one of the newer Christmas movies. So there's the elf's hat. And if you can see his face, one of my favorite parts of that movie, it's got words on it. It says, it's when he's in the department store and he's working there and Santa's gonna come and does he see him? And he says, he gets so excited, he jumps up and down and says, "Oh my God, Santa, I know him." Familiarity. It just feels, I'm feeling a lot of joy this season and somehow letting myself bask in carols, singing along, just the joy of it, and it's been really, really nice. And it's interesting to me how those of us who grew up with this tradition, this Christian story, for me, how soothing or how comforting the familiarity of the carols are. And I would think that in any tradition that is the case, that's something we've so embodied. So I'd like to start today with our movement, with getting on the ground, or if you choose, you can do this in a chair. A little different, but you guys know your bodies well. Most people who attend now or later, like Anne, Catherine, and Nancy, and often now Susan, often come later very dedicatedly. So, and on that note, I thank you for being here this last day of our fall quarter at Sun and Moon, and we'll begin again. I think it's the 2nd. Jackie, can you nod for me? Is that the Friday that you start? I think the 2nd. We're back in business, back in classes. So, all right. So we'll get on the ground on our backs. Knees can be bent. Let's see. Two different setups here. And do make sure your space is comfortable. Even the ancient writings in India said to put a mat on your floor, on your often a what's it called, dirt floor back then, several millennium ago. And I always chuckle at this instruction to make your space free of flies and insects, preferable. Alrighty, so on our backs, knees bent, perhaps something under your head if that's comfortable, perhaps something, we're gonna need our legs to be movable, so don't necessarily put something under your knees. Sure you can see me. You don't need to see me. The instructions will come. In fact, I'll just stay. No, let me go ahead and be on the ground, but you can hear me from here. I'm speaking a little bit louder. Steve can hear me. Oops, Steve froze on my screen. Jackie, you can hear me. Alrighty, so on our backs, arrive. Arms relaxed. Take a few moments to feel the entirety of yourself, feeling the letting go that happens as we feel the trust of the solidity of the floor, the ground. Feeling the different parts of you as they meet, just like when you come into, say, a gathering at someone's house, and each person that you encounter, you have that greeting, you have that familiarity or or meeting somebody new. And each part has its own distinct way that it's responding. It's its own distinct feel. It may be letting go, maybe that's a common theme, but one part feels like a flat triangle. I'm thinking of my shoulder blades. Another part, my lower back and pelvic area feels a little more pointy, smaller contact in a way. And again, when I suggest these, when I say these things, I'm reporting from here, which maybe is something you feel also, or maybe is not what you feel. So feel the truth of what is happening for you. And then begin to, well, let's take a few more moments here, just enjoying the stillness, the arrival. Let's include our breath. Sorry, I was about to jump ahead, but let's enjoy the breath. And if you need to be moving a little bit, that's fine. You might be repositioning your arms or even stretching. My arms and shoulders are feeling like they'd like a stretch. So as we're inviting attention to the breath, you might include some movement with it. So we've added to the physical body this three-dimensional mass of us meeting the ground, that attention to that aspect, and then to the breath. And then listen. Listen to sounds. Sounds around you. Perhaps some sounds that come from inside you or near, close to your body. Some from farther away. And now without moving your knees, so knees are bent, soles of the feet on the floor, legs standing, if you will, from this reclined position. And just begin to lift one side of your pelvis, maybe the right, maybe the left. Just lift a little tiny bit and then lower. Just as if you might want to try to slip a piece of paper under that hip a little bit and lower. A tiny bit is enough. And as we do this repeatedly, lifting, lowering, keeping it light and easy, you could let the movement be very small. I highly recommend that. Or it can be a little bit larger. But that first, just the initiation of a movement, there's so much information there for us, especially when you open the field of your attention to include the whole body. So not just the hip lifting and the opposite hip getting a little heavier perhaps, but what happens at the shoulders, at the neck, at the head, at your arms, in the legs and feet, in the belly, in the chest, in the rib cage, and your breathing and your organs, and your eyes, And you might, as you're experiencing, okay, let's let it go. I've talked a bit. Let's let that go. If it's comfortable to, stretch your legs out, go flat, or perhaps to rest in stillness after that little bitty movement. Turning your feet in and leaning the knees in against each other. That's a nice, very comfortable releasing position. And this pause, this potent, powerful pause, is so, so valuable and so rich with information, I always find. But see for yourself if that's true, and then what that information is. What do I mean by that? Often there's so much that's already changed just with that little bit of investigative, explorative, joyful movement. Then come back to knees bent, knees apart a little bit. And let's take the other direction. My head is turned if you're watching what's on the screen. That's so that I'm projecting my voice toward my microphones on my laptop and my phone that's recording for YouTube. But you can keep your head at center or let it move a little with the movement. And on this side too, so we take the other side. If you were lifting the right, now work with the left lifting, or vice versa. Just imagine, but first just imagine. Imagine the hip lifting, lowering, pausing at that lowering, back at the starting place. And go ahead and make the movement, or if you're enjoying the imagination of it by itself, and the slight bit of movements that you feel that are in reaction to that intent and instruction and imagination. And as you're doing this movement now, if you're lifting, whichever hip is getting heavier, let your eyes roll in that direction. So for me, the left hip is lifting the left side of the pelvis a tiny bit, and I'm going to let my eyes roll to the right as the right hip gets heavier, and then eyes go back to center as the pelvis evens out on the ground. So eyes are rolling with the lift of the hip. You're observing the entire body and how this movement, this motion in the pelvis is translating perhaps up toward the head. For me, I just kinked my right shoulder blade, and this is really nicely massaging also my right shoulder. But all of yourself, just folding in all of yourself, whatever emotionality might be here, whatever feel of temperature. My room is getting a little cold. The heater's been off for a bit. How the breath feels. And then wherever you are in motion, just pause. My hip is a little lifted. Just pause, then continue. Eyes are rolling, and then roll back. Everything to center. And while I'm going to come up to seated, you guys stay where you are. Perhaps coming to a pause in a half a breath or so, or 2 breaths. Coming to stillness. Savoring what's coming to you now. in the stillness after this little bit of movement, but with so much richness of feeling the inner connections inside. And now, as we come to the movement again, move from side to side. So, and remember, the knees are pointed to the ceiling. The legs don't go side to side like is common in the windshield wiper move that you might be familiar with. So this movement changes the parameters so that we're moving in parts of our lower back more than parts of our hips. That's something like what's happening. It's changing where there's more movement is happening, even though it's very, very slight movement. And go side to side, letting your eyes go toward the side of the pelvis that's getting heavier. And if you're feeling any kind of difficulty in this movement, any at all, do less. Do less so that we get more smoothness, more lightness, more harmony throughout the whole body. And in a sense, I'm not avoiding difficulty. I'm looking for the path, which is actually, there's a challenge in itself of doing less. So we're meeting a new kind of challenge. Instead of pushing through the way that is sort of the norm of our education, our culture, we're doing less to see more, to feel more, to integrate more. And then you might need to stop to do this, or you might be able to change midstream. Let the eyes change direction so they're going toward the hip that's lifting, toward the side of the hip, side of the pelvis that's lifting. Instead of the side of the pelvis that's getting heavier. We've just kind of interrupted our, maybe the pattern we set. Into a new pattern. And then let your eyes go whichever way is more comfortable, or don't let your eyes not move at all really, or stay more centered. But from time to time in the next few breaths, just pause midstream of the movement. Pause when you land back on the ground fully for a moment, just momentarily. But also somewhere midstream movement, just pause. Just come like there's a stop sign comes up in front of you. And then move any way you'd like here for the next 2 breaths. And then come to a pause, a stop. Receive what's arriving, what you're noticing. Our next practice will be meditation, and you could choose to stay on the ground and just have a reclining meditation, or you might Gradually come up to seated, still having this same outlook of including the whole body, including all of yourself as you're moving to this next place. And then find what you need to set up your seat or your position, however it is, for stillness. Some support under your legs or your pelvis, your head if you're lying down. And I forgot my bell at the beginning, so I'll ring the bell for the beginning of our 8-minute meditation, during which I'm going to read you a few lyrics from a Christmas carol and give you light bits of guidance. So as my teacher Russell says, enjoy the journey. My Om Mani Padme Om bowl, and I refreshed my memory on that with some research. It's the jewel in the lotus. That is a little short mantra, very well-known mantra in Buddhist circles, associated with the idea and God, I think they have, I forget, are they called gods? Yeah, I guess so. God of compassion. He has many. He or she, they might even have masculine and feminine forms. I can't, without reading it in front of me. Alakashvir, you guys probably know that God. Deity. I'm not sure they're called gods. So the jewel in the lotus is thought to be I think the jewel is compassion, and or I might have it backwards, and the lotus is wisdom, and we need the both. There's often teachings in many traditions of, if you only have wisdom but no compassion, we get out of balance. If there's only compassion but no wisdom, we're also not really in balance. So we take this practice to feel these qualities in ourselves, and also to feel that we can pause to see the forces that pull us out of balance, to meet them, notice them. Perhaps stop either wrestling with them or denying them or indulging them, but just to see, to be with.
If you find yourself somehow struggling in this practice, find yourself lost or failing at it, the moment you've noticed that, you're already, do a little celebratory dance there internally. You're already tapped back into the awareness that's never not here. And you can lean into the mini practices such as following breath, feeling the touch of your body to ground, perhaps repeating a mantra, a prayer. You might just stay in stillness as I read you some of these lyrics. This is from the carol named In the Bleak Mid-Winter. I'd forgotten about this one and come across it on my music app. And I was listening to it again and again this morning, some different versions. And these words touch me as part of the message of this Christmas story. What can I bring him, poor as I am? If I were a shepherd, I would bring a lamb. If I were a wise man, I would do my part. What can I give him? Give him my heart. This show of kindness
toward another, or towards someone special, towards someone in need. Fills my heart. This idea. And so to build a little on those lyrics as well, and kind of why I pointed out these Christmassy earrings is from just a commercial movie of Christmas, why I shared that. I somehow made the commitment, or have more time. Somehow I have been indulging this season into I don't know, just the caroling group I joined at a friend's house, whose house that was last Sunday night on the day it had snowed. It was so cold and windy. She had about 60 people at her house. It was a not big house, and you walk in and there was the warmth and aroma of chili greeted us. And anyway, lovely. I convinced my husband to come with me to a craft fair yesterday. I have a neighbor, and this is the story I'd like to share with you. She's been here, she and her husband, maybe 6-8 years. I think they're still both employed by, whatever they do for their living, but they live on a corner of two pretty main streets here near my house. They call themselves kindness activists. It's a bona fide nonprofit, and among the many things they do, they set up early December. They set up a desk in front of their house and a mailbox that is going to the North Pole. The address is to the North Pole, and there are instructions there at the desk for how to write a letter to Santa, and you're to say something about something good that happened to you this year, and write your parents' name and phone number, and list five things you might like for Christmas. And she shares some of the letters she gets. I say she, her husband's a lot involved as well, but she does the outreach, the communication part of this. And there's much more going on at this house. They often have a rack of coats and hats with a sign that says, if you're cold and you need a coat, take a coat. They have a food pantry, as opposed to a little library where we can bring foods and people who need them can take them. Anyhow, so one of the letters that she's shared recently on Facebook, it might have been the oldest of 4 children writing and saying, well, among the things he shared was, Santa, would you please help my little brother? Sorry, I've retold this story several times. Wow. My little brother who cannot speak. In any case, not only is it so touching to see children who, in addition to wanting their bicycles or Nintendos or what else they want these days, write such really touching things. And equally touching is how she responds lovingly and honestly. She said, I can't remember her words. Her words are so excellent. and you would find her if you're on Facebook, kindness activist, Susan Thompson Gaines, I think is her last name. And she writes back honestly that that's something that probably Santa can't do. However, she said something like, however, how wonderful that your little brother is surrounded by your kindness, and things like that are just so dear. So these are the powerful messages of this season, and of people like her who help by coming together. And I saw her last night as I was walking my dog, and I took the chance to go give her a hug and thank her for her work. And I sometimes feel all I do is I did contribute some money to her, to getting some of those, something like 500 gifts she gave out to people. And she gets on Facebook, she gets those of us who can to help out with fulfilling those requests to Santa. So it felt good to me to be able to help, but I feel like she and her husband are the force that make this happen. And she was kind enough to say, and I think I needed to hear this, that, well, it's you also make it possible. So it's just this beautiful way of understanding that we all have this role to play. Thank you. Whew. All right, I'll stop the recording now and see all of you who are on the recording later and next year. And the rest of you could stay for a minute or so if you have time, or not. I understand if you need to run. Ciao, ciao.